In a quiet town nestled between rolling green hills, a boy named Rohan lived with his family. He was known for his sharp mind and quick thinking. From a young age, he dreamed of becoming a doctor, envisioning himself in a white coat, saving lives and making his parents proud. Everyone around him believed he had the potential to achieve great things. However, Rohan had one major weakness. He lacked discipline. Though intelligent and ambitious, his mind was like an untamed horse, constantly wandering in different directions. Whenever he sat down to study, he would get distracted by his phone, social media, or video games. Hours would slip away as he scrolled through endless posts or played just one more round of his favorite game. His parents and teachers noticed his growing problem. They saw his talent, but also his lack of focus. One evening, while he was lying on the couch glued to his phone, his mother sighed and sat beside him. "Mother, son, if you don't focus on your studies, you will lose your future. You can't become a doctor just by dreaming." Rohan barely looked up from his phone, nodding absent-mindedly. "I'll study later, Mom. I still have plenty of time." At school, his teachers had similar concerns. After yet another class where Rohan spent more time doodling than listening, his teacher called him aside. "Teacher, Rohan, you have talent, but without discipline you will fail. Intelligence alone won't help if you don't learn to control your mind." But Rohan only shrugged it off. He was confident in his abilities, believing that when the time came, he could simply study hard for a few days and still do well. After all, wasn't he naturally smart? Why worry now? Little did he know, his careless attitude would soon lead to a harsh lesson, one that would change his life forever. Months passed, and soon the day of the scholarship exam arrived. This was an important test, one that could help Rohan secure a scholarship for medical school. But instead of preparing thoroughly like his classmates, Rohan relied on his intelligence, thinking a little last-minute studying would be enough. The night before the exam, while his friends were revising, he was still scrolling through his phone, assuring himself, "I'll manage, I always do." On the day of the exam, he walked into the hall full of confidence, barely feeling nervous. As he flipped through the test paper, he quickly realized something. He didn't know the answers. His mind, which once felt sharp, was now clouded and restless. He tried to recall what he had read, but found only fragments of information buried under countless hours of distractions. "This isn't good," he thought, panic creeping in. He scribbled answers, hoping for the best. A week later, the results were announced. As students gathered around the notice board, cheers and excited whispers filled the air. Rohan confidently pushed through the crowd, expecting to see his name among the top scorers. But when he scanned the list, his heart sank. His name wasn't there. He had failed. His friends, who had studied diligently, had all passed with flying colors. They turned to him, some with sympathetic smiles, others with quiet disappointment. "Friend, Rohan, you're smart, but you never study. This was bound to happen." His teachers, who once praised his intelligence, now looked at him with disappointment and regret. "Gee, you had the potential, Rohan, but talent without discipline is wasted talent." That evening, Rohan sat alone in his room, staring at the exam results in his hands. Shame and regret filled his heart. For the first time, he truly faced the truth. He had no one to blame but himself. He thought back to all the nights he had wasted, the times he had told himself, "I'll study later," only for later to never come. He remembered his mother's worried voice, his teacher's warnings, his friend's dedication, all the things he had ignored. Intelligence alone isn't enough, he realized. Discipline is the key to success. With this painful lesson sinking in, Rohan knew he had to change. But how? Where could he learn the discipline he had always lacked? Then he remembered something, the wise monk that people in town often spoke about, a man who had once struggled like him, but had mastered his mind through sheer discipline. With renewed determination, Rohan made a decision. He would seek the monk's guidance and learn how to control his mind. As Rohan sat in his room, lost in thought, he remembered hearing stories about a wise monk who lived on the outskirts of town. The villagers spoke of him as a man who had once been ordinary, just like anyone else, but had completely transformed his life through discipline and mental control. If he could master his mind, maybe he can teach me too, Rohan thought. Determined to change, Rohan made a bold decision. He would visit the monk and ask for guidance. Early the next morning, he set off on his journey. As he walked along the dusty path leading to the monastery, doubts began creeping in. Will the monk even help me? Am I even capable of changing? Maybe I'm just not meant to succeed. The further he walked, the more his mind wavered. At one point, he even considered turning back, but then he clenched his fists and pushed forward. No, if I don't change now, I never will. But after hours of walking, Rohan finally reached the monastery nestled peacefully between the trees. The sound of birds chirping and the soft rustling of leaves filled the air. In the center of the courtyard, beneath a large ancient tree, sat the old monk, eyes closed, deep in meditation. His face was calm, his presence radiating wisdom and peace. Nervously, Rohan stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Mohadith, Master, Mohadith, I want to succeed, but I keep getting distracted. Please teach me how to control my mind. The monk slowly opened his eyes and smiled. Monk chuckling softly, the restless mind, that is the greatest challenge of all. Rohan's eyes lit up with hope and eagerness. Rohan, what should I do, Master? How can I discipline my mind? The monk gestured for him to sit beside him under the tree. Monk, call me tell you a story. And with that, the monk began his lesson. The story that would change Rohan's life forever. The monk gazed at Rohan with a knowing smile before beginning his tale. Monk, many years ago, there was a young man named Via who dreamed of becoming the greatest archer in the kingdom. He was strong, skilled, and determined, but he had one flaw. His mind was always scattered. Whenever he practiced, his eyes wandered. One day, he would train diligently, but the next, he would be distracted by his surroundings, the chatter of villagers, the rustling of leaves, or the birds flying overhead. He believed that his natural talent alone would make him the best, but no matter how hard he tried, his shots were inconsistent. Seeing Via's struggle, his archery master decided to teach him an important lesson. One morning, he took Via to a quiet riverbank. The water flowed gently, carrying small leaves downstream. Master, Via, take your bow and shoot at that floating leaf in the river. Via nodded, confident that this would be easy. He pulled back his bowstring, took aim, and released the arrow. But to his surprise, he missed. Via, fresh and fit, free of pain. I don't understand. I thought I had aimed properly. The master studied him for a moment and then asked a simple question. Master, tell me, what did you see when you aimed? Via, I saw the river, the trees, the sky, and the leaf. The master shook his head. Master, that is why you failed. A true archer sees only the target, nothing else. Your eyes are drawn to everything around you, and so is your mind. Until you learn to block out distractions and focus solely on your goal, you will never hit your mark. Via finally understood his mistake. From that day forward, he trained not just his body, but also his mind. He practiced every day, teaching himself to ignore everything except his target. He blocked out distractions, controlled his breathing, and trained his eyes to see only the leaf. Months later, the master brought him back to the river and asked him to aim again. Master, now tell me, what do you see? Via's eyes locked onto the leaf. Via, confidently, I see only the leaf. This time, when he released the arrow, it struck the leaf perfectly, riding along with the current of the river. The master nodded in approval. Master, now you understand. Discipline is not about strength or talent. It is about controlling your focus. Once you master your mind, nothing will stand in your way. The monk turned back to Rohan, his eyes full of wisdom. Monk, your mind is like Via's. It is distracted by everything around you. If you want to succeed, you must train yourself to see only your goal and nothing else. Rohan sat in silence, absorbing the lesson. For the first time, he truly understood what had been holding him back, but there was still one question left in his mind. Rohan, Master, how do I train my mind like Via did? The monk smiled knowingly. Monk, I will give you 4 simple rules. Rohan sat eagerly before the monk, his mind finally open to change. The lesson of the archer resonated deeply with him, but he still needed a practical way to apply it. Rohan, curious but determined to curry. I understand the importance of focus, but I don't know where to start. The monk smiled knowingly and raised 4 fingers. Monk, if you truly wish to discipline your mind, follow these 4 simple rules. Monk, the mind is like a wild horse. It will wander unless you tame it. Every time you catch yourself distracted, gently bring your focus back to your task. Like the archer who sees only his target? Monk, exactly. Whether you are studying, working, or practicing a skill, train yourself to be present. Each time your mind drifts, whether to your phone, daydreams, or worries, pull it back to the task at hand. This is the first step to mastering discipline. Monk, a disciplined mind needs structure. Set a daily schedule and follow it. Your mind should know when it's time to study, rest, and play, just as the sun knows when to rise and set. So if I set specific times for studying every day, my mind will naturally adjust? Monk, exactly. The more consistent your routine, the easier it becomes to stay focused. Monk, the world is full of distractions, and most of them are within your control. Identify what steals your focus, be it your phone, television, or unnecessary activities, and eliminate them while working. Rohan, so does that mean I should delete my social media apps? Monk, if they steal your time, then yes. At least limit your usage during important tasks. A warrior does not practice with one eye on his sword and the other on the crowd. Focus only on what truly matters. Monk, discipline is not built in a single day. It is forged through daily effort. Just as an athlete trains his body, you must train your mind every day. So, I have to keep practicing, even when it feels difficult? Monk, especially when it feels difficult, that is when true growth happens. The monk placed a gentle hand on Rohan's shoulder. Monk, follow these 4 rules, and you will no longer be a prisoner of your wandering mind. Instead, you will become its master. Rohan took a deep breath, feeling a newfound sense of clarity. He had spent years blaming distractions and circumstances, but now he realized success was in his hands. Rohan smiled. Thank you, Master. I will not waste this lesson. With the monk's words etched into his heart, Rohan was ready to embark on his journey of discipline and self-mastery. Rohan returned home that day with a new determination burning inside him. The monk's lessons had shown him that success was not about intelligence alone, but about discipline and focus. Rohan knew that to truly change, he had to take action immediately. He began making small but powerful changes to his daily routine. Strict study schedule, he created a structured timetable for studying and followed it without excuses. Eliminating distractions. He deleted his social media apps, turned off notifications, and kept his phone away while studying. Mental discipline. Every time his mind wandered, he reminded himself, my goal is to become a doctor. Nothing else matters right now. At first, it was incredibly difficult. Rohan's mind resisted discipline. It craved distractions. His hands itched to check his phone. His thoughts drifted to daydreams. His old habits tempted him to delay studying. But this time, he fought back. Whenever he felt the urge to procrastinate, he remembered the monk's words. A true archer sees only his target, nothing else. Little by little, he trained himself to stay focused. At first, he could study for just 30 minutes without distraction. Then it became an hour. Eventually, he could study for several hours with complete concentration. Months passed, and soon, the next important exam arrived. Unlike before, Rohan didn't rely on last-minute cramming or blind confidence. He walked into the exam hall feeling calm, prepared, and focused. This time, he didn't let his mind wander. This time, he didn't think about failure. He picked up his pen and began writing, fully immersed in the test. When the results were announced, Rohan's heart pounded. And then he saw his name at the very top of the list. He had secured the highest rank. His friends were shocked. Friend, Rohan, this is amazing. How did you do it? I finally learned to control my mind instead of letting it control me. His teachers, who once looked at him with disappointment, now gazed at him with pride. Teacher, Rohan, you have truly transformed. This is what discipline can achieve. For the first time, Rohan understood what true success meant. It wasn't about being the smartest, it was about having the strongest focus and determination. And from that moment on, he vowed to live by the monk's wisdom. Discipline your mind, and success will follow. Years later, a doctor's triumph. The years passed, and Rohan's hard work and discipline never wavered. He pursued medicine with the same focus and determination he had learned from the monk. One evening, in a grand auditorium, Rohan stood on stage, receiving a prestigious award for academic and professional excellence. The audience erupted in applause. Host: Derek Rohan, you have become one of the most respected doctors in the country. What is the secret to your success? Rohan smiled, gripping the trophy, and looked out at the audience. Rohan, many believe success comes from intelligence or luck. But I learned something different. Many years ago, a wise monk told me. Remembering the monk's words, Rohan's mind flashed back to that day at the monastery. He could still see the monk meditating under the tree, his face calm and wise. Monk's voice echoing in his mind. The mind is like a wild horse. If you don't control it, it will take you wherever it wants. But if you train it, it will take you exactly where you want to go. At that moment, Rohan understood something deeper. The ultimate lesson. He turned back to the audience, eyes filled with conviction. Rohan, discipline is the key to success, not intelligence, not luck, but mastering your own mind. The audience fell silent for a moment, absorbing the weight of his words, then erupted into applause once more. Rohan had not just won an award, he had won his life. And from that day forward, he lived by a single principle. Discipline your mind, and success will follow.